Howdy all, it is me, JSoldierPro. Once again, I've been working on a ranking of every track in Mario Kart World and decided it would be cool to rank the tribute tracks in addition to the main tracks the game offers. These can be found across the world and are normally driven through during a route from one track to another, but they can be played individually in free roam by activating a P-switch mission. These missions have the player drive around the track for 3 laps against opponents, where checkpoints must be driven through. There's also a timer that must be beaten, and falling off at any point will force a restart of the mission. These tribute tracks are at their core SNES track remakes, which made me decide to rank them, but they function differently enough from regular tracks that I decided it would be best to rank them separately, which I'm doing today. Hope y'all enjoy, and let's do this!
Oh no!
7. SNES Choco Island 1. Outside of N64 Choco Mountain, players can find both SNES Choco Island tracks, and I'm happy to say that they're visually improved. The original SNES Choco Islands are the ugliest tracks in the series, so I'm happy the poop field aesthetic they had originally has been replaced by a muddy landscape instead. I do wish these tracks were rethemed into islands and made of chocolate sweets located near Tour Sky High Sundae, but the retheming is a plus regardless. Regarding the gameplay of SNES Choco Island 1, it's very basic, with some piranha plants to dodge and some thick mud that can be mushroomed through, which leads to some shortcut potential. I like how there's less harsh mud surrounding the track, which eliminates the sharp contrast between the track and the off-road that plagued the original SNES Choco Islands. The main flaw with this remake is that there are no trick ramps. The bumps were annoying in the original, but with tricking, they would be fun, as proven in the Tour remake that features them. I still don't like this track by any means, but it's definitely the best version. 6. SNES Choco Island 2. Everything I said about SNES Choco Island 1 applies here as well, but I give Choco Island 2 the edge due to the layout being slightly better suited for shortcuts through the thick mud. The small part where you drive through the less harsh mud is a nice touch and calls back to the mud puddle that dominated a large part of the original. I could complain about that being removed in this remake, but given how irritating it was to drive through in the original, I'm fine with it being gone. The original SNES Choco Island 2 is my least favorite Nitro track in the series, so World managing to make the track not terrible is admittedly somewhat impressive. 5. SNES Ghost Valley 1. Outside of Boo Cinema, players will find a massive boardwalk with various connecting paths. It turns out the boardwalk is a collection of all 3 SNES Ghost Valley tracks combined, and the being interconnected easily makes them the most fun tribute tracks to race through in regular routes. Depending on the route, players will take a different path through the boardwalk, which is very cool. I wish all 3 SNES Ghost Valleys were combined for the P-switch missions, but as to be expected with these being tribute tracks, that's not the case. Visually, the SNES Ghost Valleys are better than ever, with them taking place on a boardwalk in a haunted swamp. Activating any of the SNES Ghost Valley P-switches will cause boosts to appear that watch the race, and this is an excellent detail. Regarding SNES Ghost Valley 1 specifically, the gameplay is largely unremarkable, with the highlight of the track being the feather shortcut. The feather item is back in regular races and worlds, so as you would expect, the iconic feather shortcut returns, but now requires a feather. I wish you could do the shortcut using a mushroom like you could in the original, but this isn't really an issue considering the remake has an item box that guarantees the player a feather. This is an excellent addition and secures this as the best version of the track.
So I missed!
4. SNES Vanilla Lake. Between Tour Sky Sunday and 3DS Mario Shipyard, players can find SNES Vanilla Lake, which despite the name is really a SNES Vanilla Lake 1 remake that doesn't include SNES Vanilla Lake 2. This is notable for being the first SNES Vanilla Lake remake outside of Super Circuit and Tour, and while only a tribute track, I'll say the wait was worth it. Visually, the track looks very pretty, though to be fair, that's common for snow and ice tracks in Mario Kart. Navigating around the track is smoother smoother than ever in terms of both controls and with the annoying ice blocks being removed. Tor tried to make them less awful in its SNES Vanilla Lake remakes, and while it succeeded, they still worsened the tracks, so I'm happy World simply removed them entirely. Patches of off-road and pipes serve as hazards to avoid as the player drives around the track, with the off-road of course doubling as potential shortcut locations. I also love the detail of there being a Yoshi's Diner truck parked on the side at one point, which allows players to change costumes during the race. SNES Vanilla Lake could have used something to spice up the gameplay, but this works as a chill, simple track to drive around where you can enjoy the beautiful environment. Compared to the absolute torture of the original, this is a massive improvement. 3. SNES Ghost Valley 2. Compared to SNES Ghost Valley 1, this track has always been harder and more fun to drive around, which remains true in this remake, giving it an edge. The tight turns make this track somewhat difficult, and falling off is a very real possibility here if you're not careful. This remake has the player briefly dip into the poison below the track, revealing that it functions like the thick mud in the SNES Choco Islands. This encourages players to mushroom through it, which is a nice touch. Other than that, the remake gameplay-wise is faithful to the original, even including a feather shortcut, and like SNES Ghost Valley 1, it requires the use of a feather. There's no item box that guarantees a feather here, and what makes this even more baffling is that Mario Kart Wii handled the shortcut perfectly, allowing players to do a shroomless by tricking off a ramp, or cut even more off by using a mushroom. Considering it's a basic corner cut, this makes the most sense, but World's remake is still overall my favorite. 2. SNES Koopa Beach 1. Offshore of SNES Koopa Beach, players will find an archipelago, and this is SNES Koopa Beach 1. Visually, it's my favorite tribute track, with some islands remaining barren and flat like the original, while others are detailed with elevation, trees, grass, and one even has a Yoshi's Diner that you can drive through for a costume, which is awesome. This remake takes advantage of water driving, allowing players to drive between the various islands and take in the beautiful environment the track is located in. This is definitely the most open-ended tribute track, so players need to make sure they're driving through the checkpoints in order, though this isn't very hard. I've always wanted to enjoy the original, but I've never been able to. Thankfully, World has made this track somewhat enjoyable for once. Even though this is the second best tribute track, I wish both SNES Koopa Beach tracks were remade together, with the theming being kept like it is in SNES Koopa Beach. That would have made the SNES Koopa Beach remake much better than what we got. Despite being a significant improvement over the original, this isn't quite my favorite tribute track. My favorite tribute track in Mario Kart World is 1. SNES Ghost Valley 3. This is definitely the most difficult tribute track, and it's also the most fun. The remake once again dips players down into poison, though it's brief, and unfortunately the feather shortcut from the original isn't properly remade here, though players can make their own version if desired. The tight turns and complex layout make this the most memorable and fun of the tribute tracks, and there being a huge boo that jump scares you twice is hilarious. All of this is why SNES Ghost Valley 3 is my favorite tribute track in Mario Kart World. Breaking it down, there are no terrible tribute tracks, 3 bad tribute tracks, 4 mid tribute tracks, and no tribute tracks beyond that. Unfortunately, these ranked poorly compared to regular tracks in the Mario Kart series, but I'm not surprised, and it can be debated how fair of a comparison this even is. Sure, these are SNES track remakes, but they're P-switch missions that can only be properly played in free roam, where players must beat a timer and drive through checkpoints. Rather than comparing them to the whole series, I think it's more interesting to compare the remakes to their original versions. Doing so, we can see all our improvements, and in fact the improvements are consistent for each track theme. All SNES Ghost Valleys maintained their tier, both SNES Choco Islands improved 1 tier, SNES Koopa Beach 1 also improved 1 tier, and SNES Vanilla Lake improved 2 tiers. Overall, these are significant improvements, and while none are especially amazing, I'm still happy they're in the game regardless. They help give some routes in the game some extra personality, which is definitely appreciated, and they're a cool secret for players that explore free roam. In that respect, I think they're executed well. I'm working on a full ranking of every track in Mario Kart World, and I'll include these at the end of that video just to see how they rank compared to the regular tracks in the game. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.